Hey friends, PK Patel here from Midwest Corporate Credit, where funding your business is our business. How do you fund a fast-growing business? How do you keep up with the constant demand for working capital on a business that's doubling, tripling, or quadrupling on a year-over-year basis? The answer coming up. So it all started with an email that I received from a client. Here, I'll read it to you. It says, "Hey PK, I hope you're doing well. I'm not sure if you remember, but I went through your program in April of 2019, and you got me approved for $90,000 in credit. My business will finish 2019 with $1.2 million in sales, and the $90,000 that you got me earlier this year is no longer enough to fund the full amount of inventory we need. Is there a way to get a larger line? Any suggestions would be much appreciated. Sincerely, Jeremy Carter." Well, Jeremy, I feel like a lot of businesses are in the same boat as you that are growing extremely quickly. However, they're having a hard time getting funding from banks that could keep up with the growing demand of their business because banks are not comfortable with extremely high growth companies. In fact, they think high growth is unsustainable and could be a little finicky. Banks prefer working with companies that are growing at a slow and steady clip that is sustainable, 10, 20, maybe 30% on an annual basis. So how do you overcome this and what can you do? Well, I'm going to share 3 tips with you if you're a fast growing company that you can use and get funding that's sustainable and reliable. Since Jeremy's the one that prompted this question, I'm going to use his business as an example to deliver these 3 tips to you guys. Jeremy has an e-commerce business that specializes in selling residential and commercial lighting products. They fulfill these orders through their warehouse in Nashville, Tennessee. And last year, Jeremy's business did $432,000 in gross sales. So in 2018, $432,000. And in 2019, it looks like he's going to finish at $1.2 million in gross revenue. Now, that is monster growth. He almost tripled the size of his company, and now he needs additional funding. And the $90,000 that we raised for him in the springtime is no longer enough to keep enough inventory on hand to meet all the demand that his company has. So at this point, what do you do? Tip number 1 is banks are going to lend or extend a line of credit for 10% to 20% of your annual gross revenue. So in Jeremy's case, if you use his 2018 numbers, that's going to be $43,000 to $86,000, and that is not enough. He's already got $90,000, but the 10 to 20% on his 2018 numbers is nowhere near enough. So what you have to do is find a lender that is willing to use new financials, updated financials. So his year-to-date 2019 numbers is what the underwriter needs to focus on, where Jeremy has $1.2 million in gross revenues. Now, if they use his 2019 numbers, as you can see, the 10 to 20% is much higher than his 2018. So he could get between $120,000 and $240,000 in a working capital line of credit if they use his 2019 numbers. So tip number 1 is to find a lender that will use recent financials, which are more favorable to you as the business owner, and you'd be able to get a larger line that way. Tip number 2 is don't use your business as an ATM right before you apply for a large line of credit. What do I mean by that? Any profits that your business generates, you want to leave within the business. You don't want to take shareholder distributions or have frivolous expenses 3 to 6 months prior to applying for a line of credit, because you want to show that your bank balance is steadily increasing and you have the cash flow to be able to support the larger line and the payments thereof. And tip number 3, this is probably one of my favorites, is to use multiple lenders. There's no rule that says you only have to use one bank or credit union to get your credit facility from. You could use multiple lenders, just don't overextend yourself. That's the important thing. You should know what your limitations are and what you could reasonably pay back. And I would never advise anybody, client or non-client, or anyone that's watching this video to never ever overextend yourself, because you could get in some serious financial trouble. But you are allowed to use multiple different lenders in order to make it more advantageous for you to get those increases that you need for a fast-growing company. For example, let's say Jeremy's business, $90,000. If that was between 3 different lenders, $30,000 a piece, is it easier or harder to get an increase from $30,000 to $60,000 than it is to go with one lender that is going to extend $90,000 and to go from $90,000 to $180,000? So obviously it's a lot easier to get small incremental increases with multiple different lenders, and that's the strategy that I would recommend for any fast-growing business, is set up relationships with multiple different banks so that growing them is going to be a compounding effect rather than just having one line and having all your eggs in that one basket. Because if the lender decides that you're too high of a risk and they want to shut down your line or lower it, then you're pretty much stuck up the creek without a paddle. So put your eggs in multiple different baskets and set up multiple different lines with different lenders so that you're well diversified. And anytime you want an increase, all you need to do is go to a lender and ask for an extra $30,000 or $60,000 as opposed to doubling it and asking for almost $100,000. All right, guys, I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, I invite you to type them in the comment section and we'll answer them as regularly as we can. If you enjoyed this video, share it with a friend, give me a like, and make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we'll get you additional content like this. For Midwest Corporate Credit, I'm PK Patel. Thank you for watching.